Okay, question number 4. Why was Lori's father cynical about Charles's reformed behavior? Reformed means to kind of change around. The father's cynical. I always like to talk to students about cynical using an example. Say that you offer to mow your parents' grass. You're in 8th grade, and say that your neighbor isn't quite kid friendly, teenage friendly. They think teenagers are out for themselves. Well, you, being the nice neighbor, notice that your neighbor's grass is getting high. And you don't mind mowing grass. And so you think, I'm just going to offer to mow their grass because it seems like they need it. It's getting high. Seems like they're busy. They're always coming and going. And so you go to your neighbor and you say, I'll mow your grass for you. If your neighbor is cynical, they are going to think that you want to mow their grass just for money because teenagers always want money so they can go shopping. A cynical view is when you are distrustful of human nature, when you think that someone is only doing something for themselves. So your cynical neighbor would think that you're just offering to mow grass for money, when in actuality, maybe you're just doing it because you want to be nice. And so with that, let's look at the story and how cynical applies to this story. Right here, I've highlighted a lot of this, but right here it says, wait and see, my husband said cynically. When you've got a Charles to deal with, this may mean he's plotting. Dad's being cynical. He's that neighbor who thinks that Charles is just out for himself. And so it says, Charles was so good today, the teacher gave him an apple. What? I said, my husband added wearily. You mean Charles? Charles, Lori said. He gave the crayons around, and he picked up the books afterward, and the teacher said he was her helper. What happened? I asked incredulously. He was her helper, that's all, Lori said and shrugged. Can this be true about Charles? I asked my husband that night. Can something like this happen? Wait and see, my husband said cynically. When you've got a Charles to deal with, this may mean he's only plotting. So like your neighbor that maybe thinks that you're just plotting for money to mow their grass, Dad is not trusting Charles being good. Because if you look back throughout the story, I'm just going to kind of point out a few things and kind of breeze through it. I'm not going to read the whole story to you. It says, because she tried to make him color with red crayons, Charles wanted to color with green, so he hit the teacher, and she spanked him. The third day, it was Wednesday, and Charles bounced a seesaw on the head of a little girl, and he made her bleed, and the teacher made him stay inside. Thursday, he had to stand in a corner because he kept pounding his feet on the floor. Friday, he was deprived blackboard privileges because he threw chalk. And there's more things that he does. He kicks the teacher. And so up until this point in the story, Charles is doing all of these bad things. And so now he's suddenly being good. And so Dad, again being that cynical neighbor, thinks that Charles just wants something. Like that neighbor that thinks that you just want money for mowing grass. And so somewhere in your answer, you should have said that Dad is not trusting this new behavior in Charles. He thinks that Charles is motivated by his own interests. And so Dad doesn't fully believe that this change can happen so quickly. Again, see your teacher if you think you've answered using these kinds of points in your response.